Okay, jab, 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 right hook. Anyone heard of Gary Vaynerchuk in the room? Yeah, a few people. So he's got this concept and he wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And the main concept is when you're doing your stuff on social media, and also I suppose in life in general, and sort of relationships in general, the jabbing is pushing out content, adding value to the community. It's about documenting your journey, documenting your story. You know, people like reality TV. It's not that exciting. It's just like there's a story to follow. So that's what you want to do with your social media. And the reason it's jab, 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 right hook is because it's talking about the relationship between like putting out content and then the right hook is asking for something. So you want to just be putting out content, helping other people, making connections, coming to events like this, that kind of stuff. And then every so often you can drop in there, okay, I'm opening up some investor call slots. If you want to have a chat, I've got 5 slots this week opening. And just do it like that. You don't want to every day be going, I'm looking for investors, I'm looking for investors, I'm looking for investors, because it's boring and also it makes you look desperate and like you're not actually that good at raising money. So I would probably go a bit more. I'd go like jab, 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 and then do a right hook. So do like 9 to 1, especially when you're starting out, like, you know, that kind of stuff. Cool, sales process. So the Without being too blunt, the main success in investor relations is moving money from the investor's bank account into your bank account. Like that's how you define success from an investor relations point of view. So you have to treat it like a sales process. So a sales process starts with prospects at the top. So your prospects are your leads. It's just start with a spreadsheet, just go through friends, family, colleagues, people that you might know from here, people on your social media, just put them all in a spreadsheet. And that's your long list. You might have 50, 100, 200 people just who could potentially be my investors. Like I said, the money for your next 5 deals is already within those investors, that list. The next one down is lead qualification. So you've got this big long list. At some point you need to work out, have these people got any money? Like, are they qualified to be like technically leads? You're going to have to work that out yourself. You either ask someone that might know about it, or just go out and have a coffee with them, just talk to them about, about what their position is without asking to directly. At some point, you need to qualify, have they got money? And if you're starting out, you might only need 5, 10, 20, 50K, so likely more people within your network will have it. And then as you get bigger, you might need more money, and you might need to target people. Well, I know they've sold a business, I know they've got inheritance, that kind of stuff. The next one's intent. So you've got your long list, you've boiled it down to like, well, these people have got money. Of those people that have got money, who actually has intent in working with me? So it might be that someone's got money, but it might be that they might not want to work with you right now. It might be that you just don't have enough experience. Either you don't have enough experience, or you have enough experience, but you haven't done a good enough job letting them know that you've got that experience. You've not communicated it well enough. And if they don't have any intent in working with you now, it might not be forever. It might just be just for now. You might just need to do some more stuff, put some more content out, maybe do some more deals before they're in a position they want to work with you. And then at the end, obviously, it's a sales process. You either close them and you either get the investment or you don't, but keep them on your list and you can go back and review, speak to them at a later date, schedule a follow-up call, etc. Okay, I'm whizzing through just so I've got time for some questions. FCA, so back to the point I raised earlier really around if you're doing fixed interest rate investments, so people are just lending you money, the FCA views that as like most people understand the concept of a loan because people have mortgages, they have loans, they have credit cards. They actually understand that like I borrow some money or I lend some money and I either get or give or get an interest rate. So you're a bit safer with that stuff. Obviously, you need to clearly communicate what the risks are, what the money's going into, have a loan agreement, all those kind of things. When you're getting into like either variable interest rate or profit share deals, the FCA views that as like it's more risky, more people don't understand that side of property and that side of business, so you have to be more careful with that. And supposedly, the people that you work with are supposed to be either high net worth or sophisticated. So there are some thresholds on the FCA website around being high net worth and being sophisticated. If you're doing deals, like all the deals that we do that are like, there's like real money, like, well, I didn't say real money, there's like serious larger amounts at risk and it's on a variable, it's performance based. So like maybe they'll make 100% return on their money over 2 to 3 years. Maybe they won't make any, maybe they might lose money. There's real risks there. Versus if they're putting 50K into an HMO refurb you're doing, probably if you you know, if you did the refurb and you sold the property, if it didn't work out, you're probably going to recover most, if not all of their money. So the risk profile is slightly different. So generally, if you're doing like development projects, especially stuff where you're doing refurbs and then selling, it's more risky, and you want to make sure that the people you're working with are like sophisticated or high net worth. The sophisticated investor bar, like threshold, is a lot lower to get over than high net worth. The high net worth one's like quite a high bar for people to cross, but sophisticated, if they've done some investments in unlisted, so not publicly listed companies, so if they've done some crowdfunding investments, if they've been a director of a business that's had a decent turnover, that kind of stuff, they can be classed as sophisticated, like they understand risk and reward. Investor needs. So I talked at the beginning about like strategy, like start with why. The other side of that is the investor needs. So what does the investor want out of the deal? The easiest way is just to ask, just say what's most important to you in lending money or in working with us or investing, etc. And they'll say like maybe they want a really high interest rate, maybe they want a certain type of security, maybe they've been burnt in the past. It might be interest frequency. They might be like, I need to have interest paid monthly because I now live on this money, like this is my pension pot or whatever. It might be that they need the money back in 9 months. It might be, oh, my daughter's going to uni and I want to, give her some money or give her some money for uni, so they might want the money back. Just ask them what's most important. Because if you match up what's important to them and what you need the money for, then that's where you get the win-win, and that's where you get your sort of recurring investors and stuff. Investor meetings. Main thing with investor meetings is don't rush the pitch. So like you want to build rapport, you want to build real rapport. The best investor meetings I have, you just don't talk about the deal specifics for like 2 hours, and then at the end you like say, okay, well actually, here's the deal, go through that stuff. When you start out and when you're working on the sort of inner rings of the onion, as it were, the people who are investing in you, like they want to see the details of the deal. They want to be like, well, let's make sure there's enough headroom in it. Let's make sure there's enough fat. Like if prices drop a bit or if rents drop or whatever, if refurb costs go over 10, 20%, they want to make sure there's enough fat in the deal. But ultimately, they're investing in you because the first investors that you work with, it's going to probably be at the level that, like, even if you couldn't pay the money back out of the deal, you'd probably like dip into your own personal like money to make them good, that kind of stuff. So they're investing in you, but they also want to see the details of the deal. So don't rush the pitch, build real rapport would be my main thing for investor meetings. Paperwork and systems. The main thing really is just have your loan agreement. If you're using PGs or if you're using any kind of security, just get the templates from a solicitor. You can get template loan agreements, and if you're using personal guarantees, you can do that as well. And the key thing is if you've got fixed rate loans, just make sure you've got reminders set for like having conversations around loan repayments with investors 3 or 6 months before they mature. So you can say, we've got a 100k loan coming to maturity in 3 months. Do you want to roll it on? Do you want to reinvest? Do you want to add some more money in? That kind of thing. You don't want to get to the day before someone needs 100k back and they say, actually, I do need it back. And then you've got to scrabble around for 100k. And then repeat. So repeat comes in 3 levels. So the first level is, say someone lends you 100k for a year, you pay them the interest monthly, and then at the end of the year, they go, actually, that worked really well for me. Let's go for another year. If possible, it's really good to try and repay the money and reborrow it, because it shows that you've like been through the whole cycle, you've done what you said you were going to do. It's not always possible in property, the money might be tied up in something, but if you can, repay and reborrow. The second level of repeat is, so they lend you 100k for a year, you borrow it for a year, you pay the interest, and at the end of the year they say, actually, it worked really well for me, let's do another 50k. So they could carry on with 100 and they put another 50k in, and that's really good. And then the third level is referrals. So like now, a lot of our investors, we're like further out on the rings of an onion. They're like the brother of the next door neighbour of like one of the first investors we work with and that kind of thing. So like we've been referred because we've done what we said we were going to do over a period of time, and we're true to our word. So at that point, you then start to get further out on the onion, metaphorical onion. And then you get to the point like this. So this one says it should be on the 10th, but might be a day or 2 later. I'm happy to send the money over when it arrives, and we can do the paperwork retrospectively. So a lot of like what I do now with investor relations is agree the deal on WhatsApp, agree the terms, working with investors that we've worked with over and over again. We've repaid, reborrowed, etc. And now they just sort of send us money, and then we sort the paperwork out after. I wouldn't recommend that when you start out, but you can get there eventually. So and that's it. Whistle stop tour. Thank you. Okay. Probably got time for a couple of questions. Anyone got any questions? Yeah.
How long was it before you had an investor who you had no connection with at all?
Good question. Probably like 8 years, 5 years, 8 years. Yeah, it's quite. Sorry again.
You've built up enough experience to show someone who's a complete stranger that
Yeah.
you're worth investing in.
I'm not saying it'd be the same for everyone else, but and I think probably people think that they don't have the money in their immediate circle because you've not gone through the exercise of like long list, you know, shorten it down, go and have some conversations. But it's definitely there. There's definitely people that are there. So I wouldn't worry that it's like going to be 5 or 8 years because the money you need is already within a closer circle. It's quite, to go from someone who's like a complete stranger, I mean, it depends on how much experience you've got. If you've got bags of experience, you can put it online, you can share it with it, you can share it, you can talk them through it in an investor meeting. It's obviously going to be easier, but it's still probably going to be like 5, 7, 9 touch points. It might be over a couple of years. So yeah, for us, it was like, so it was family to start with, and then it was friends, and then it was like, people that we went to uni with, and then it was like their parents. So I suppose but there's still like, that's a referral because it's like we borrowed some money from someone we went to uni with, and then his dad wanted to invest. So complete stranger, yeah, 5 or 8 years probably. Yeah.
Just another question.
Yeah.
With regards to social media, did you find that LinkedIn was the best one to post things to, or Facebook, or which one would you recommend?
It depends. What have you got? What have you got at the moment? Have you got anything set up at the moment?
Social media?
Yeah.
Only with personal stuff.
Yeah.
I have got a LinkedIn for my work,
Yeah.
but I'm not a regular poster. But I can.
It depends what your background in like and what you like as well. So I really like Instagram, and actually most of our stuff has been not done that much on LinkedIn, but that's because my LinkedIn was more for like when I was in banking. That was more like my corporate like image, and then when I stopped doing that, I then just did everything on Instagram and then YouTube as well. So it sort of depends.
One main stream, or did you post on all streams? The same post on different streams.
You can do similar posts, but you should tailor them to the platform. So it's like, yeah, you should not just copy and paste it, because some people, like if they're doing TikTok, they like download the TikTok video and upload it to Instagram. It just looks like you've not put any effort in. So you can put similar content in across the different platforms. I would focus on 1 or 2 that you like the most and that you've got a good audience with. And also it might be that, like, so for me, I didn't really want to use LinkedIn because that was more like my banking connections, and I did hit a few of them up for investment, but I didn't want to like go like that was my new like image on there, if you know what I mean. And I just like using Instagram really, so yeah.
At one point you were talking about having a normal fixed rate loan with
Yep.
somebody, and then on the bigger deals or
Yep.
the developments, you changed it over to like a profit share.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that and why
Yep.
you did that, as opposed to just having a fixed rate loan?
Yeah, so if you get a fixed rate loan from somebody and you're putting it into a development deal that might be 2 or 3 years, generally on a fixed rate loan, a lot of the time people want the interest monthly, but even if they want it annually, like you can't pay it because all the money's tied up in the development deal, so you've got no cash flow to be able to service the loan. And we really like, where it's fixed rate, we really like paying the interest monthly, because then it hits their bank account every month and like, oh great, like they get a little reminder they're working with us. But it's also about the risk profile. So you're guaranteeing to someone like, I'm going to borrow 100k, I'm going to pay you 10% on that. But what if you don't make any money on the deal you're doing? So what you want to do is you want to say with the investor, they'll put 100k in, they might make 30k if the project goes really well, so it's a year, they might make 30k, which is 30%, but they also might only make 5%, or they might make nothing, so you're sharing the risk with the investor. And that's what I was saying about other developers getting tripped up, where they've like effectively guaranteed that they're going to pay the interest to the investors they're borrowing off, but then they don't make any money doing the development, and then they're like, they haven't got any money to repay the investors. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
the investor's not so keen on that until you've sort of proved yourself, I guess.
yeah, it's about risk reward. Like the reward is a lot higher, because like great, they might make 30% rather than 10%, but then they also might make nothing. They might also lose a bit of money, maybe. Like whereas if you're doing just like buying a house, HMO, a flat, refurbing it and refinancing it, the risk of you not being able to, okay, the money might be tied up and that they might want it back in a year and it might take you, 13, 14 months to get it back, but they're probably more likely to get their money back with their interest. Whereas in the development, it could be, they might not get all their money back. It's about there's a couple of things. It's about sharing the risk with the investor and obviously being honest with them about that's what you're doing with the profit share, but also about not having the cash flow to be able to service the interest when you're doing a development deal. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, one more maybe? You've got one more? Yeah. Yep.
You must have built some kind of credibility,
yeah.
in order to go into that.
Yep.
Yes, you could have a really good deal at the end of
yep.
that. You could have, a loss, etc. So, afterwards just reflecting.
Yeah.
Some things maybe you can jump ahead a bit, but I wouldn't have thought you could jump.
No, and I think that's a really good point. Like, don't skip the gears. So, like, we'd done, so before, the first project the first commercial to residential deal we did was a care home into 10 flats, which wasn't on there, which was in Cornwall. By that point, we'd already done probably 20 HMO refurbs, some of which were listed buildings and some of which were like 200k refurbs, so like big jobs. Some of them for ourselves and some of them for other investors. And then when we went in to do our first commercial to residential deal, it was me, or my business partners are me, who does like sales and marketing, finance, investor relations. One of our business partners is an architect, the other one's a construction manager, the other one's a building surveyor. So it's like, not only was it not our first project when we did like a bigger deal with Crowd Property, we also had like a good team around us. So yeah, don't start off. And then you just build the credibility that way, because you build the credibility yourself, but then you're also borrowing, well, my business partner's been an architect for 30 years, so he's worked on massive projects. Okay, they weren't his own, but he's de-risking it from the investor. And actually, even back to the very first investor relations thing I did, the whole thing is basically de-risking it. So when you speak to an investor, your whole job is to de-risk, honestly, but just convey the fact that you thought about all the eventualities. One of the things in here is I'm going to sell my windsurfing kit, so I've got some skin in the game. That kind of stuff. It's just the whole thing is just how am I going to make sure that I get your money back and I can pay your interest and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really, really good point. Okay. Have you got the windsurf kit back? No, I've been really bad actually. Yeah, I've not. I've got no time now. That's it. So, right, I'll be around in the break. So grab me in the break. 'Cause I'm not going to be around after that. So yeah. Thanks.